Galovich back on screen
Right.
together in this season. So what's it like working with Noel Fisher? I mean, what's been like your favorite?
Who?
Noel Fisher.
Who's that? I'm just kidding.
You got me. I was like, wait. I know it's Noel Fisher.
He's great.
Do you have a favorite moment of like getting to come back together after 2 seasons, right, being separated?
Yeah. Well, he'd left at the end of season 5, I believe, and then he kind of periodically came back during a couple seasons, but now he's fully back as a series regular on the show.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
I'm getting roasted on chat, by the way, for getting got by you, by the way.
It's all right. They don't understand that in a live context, sarcasm doesn't play as well. It's amazing with the Ian and Mickey characters because they're one of the only story threads that has been fully retained since the very beginning of the show. Since the beginning of season 1, it's a thread that has a relationship and a dynamic that has continued to grow and change and evolve over the entirety of the show. There have been the characters and cast members that have existed for that long, but they generally haven't been dealing with the same question and the same problem. Usually they're faced with new ones. So it's amazing to actually find a dynamic with enough interest and staying power that you can examine it over the course of a decade and still want more, and for people to still be fascinated by that, I think speaks to the strength of how those characters are drawn, and that a lot of thanks has to be given to the writers on that one who have been fantastic. And also, Noel is he's an extraordinary actor.
Yeah.
And it's always a pleasure working with him. We've developed a language and a comfort and a chemistry that you can only sort of have with someone who you've become good friends with over a very long period of time. So the ability to be able to communicate and work has become sort of second nature, and it means that we know how the dynamic is, but we also know that we can interrupt and kind of change this scene. We can change the goal of the scene. We can create impediments. We can go outside the lines, and we can kind of, it's like musicians. They're jamming together, and if these musicians are kind of familiar with each other's style, they know how they
right.
And it's kind of the same thing. We've created a dynamic that we can introduce a bit of danger and interruption and make it work.
I love it. Yeah, that's great. Indie Girl asks, what did you learn about yourself while playing Ian? What aspect of Ian's personality do you wish you had?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's I don't know if I've ever been asked right? Yeah, a little before. Twist.
I mean, when you're working on something for 10 years, you just grow and shift and change and well, hopefully grow as a person.
Yes.
You mature over the course of 10 years. And I was pretty young when I started filming Shameless. I was 15 during the pilot. I think that anyone at 15 has a lot of questions about who they are as a person, how they define themselves, and like in any ways. And Shameless is a very frank show. How it not Frank the character, Frank, and it deals with human nature in its most kind of vulnerable and intimate, and you have to have an exploration of yourself while doing that. So it raised a bunch of questions about who I am and how I define myself as a person. And obviously at 15, you're not going to be like the most comfortable with like sex and sexuality and that kind of stuff, and that was something that I learned and grew and kind of came to understand. And having an environment where it's an open and kind of healthy discussion, I think is actually like a really great way to be able to process that. So that was really, really cool, and something about Ian that I wish I had in myself. I think that Ian is a tough, street smart kid. He's probably like, I boxed for a while, but I think that Ian is more willing to get punched in the face than I am.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy getting punched in the face that much, which is why when I was boxing, I would try to avoid getting punched.
But you once said you think it might be in your contract that you have to be beat up in any role you play.
It seems like that.
That's still true?
I get the crap beat out of myself in most things. Even in Jedi Fallen Order, Cal gets beaten a lot.
Yes, tons.
He gets his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think that's something that I always loved about characters. Like one of my favorite movies is Chinatown, and the way that Jake gets so beaten and kind of messed up throughout the course of that movie, and he keeps getting like new bandages
more
on his face and stuff. I think it's so great. There's like no better like access to a character, and I think that's one of the most interesting traits about a character is one that is so kind of stuck to his ideals, is so bullheaded that it doesn't matter what it is, they kind of keep getting up and pushing through it. I think that's a really fascinating thing to be able to watch and explore. So, you know, something that I really like in characters. Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. So before we jump on to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, what can fans look forward to in Season 10?
Well, I don't want to give too many spoilers.
Okay.
We're on episode 2 now.
Yep. Very strong first episode, by the way, especially for you and Mickey is great. Yeah.
So we kind of continue to follow Ian and Mickey in jail together, and kind of what their relationship dynamics are there, and the sort of stress that's going to bring about with them. And then we also, I don't think it's a spoiler because it's been in like marketing material.
Sure. Yeah.
Ian is going to get out somewhat early in the season, and he's going to kind of deal with the fact that life has continued to move on and develop without him.
Okay.
Lip had a kid. Fiona's gone. The dynamic of the family is different, and also just try to deal with. With being an ex-con out in the world, which is it's a big thing. That's a huge life change, and he's got the parole officer from hell, so you can look forward to seeing that. And then we'll continue to see the dynamic of Mickey and Ian's relationship, and them asking some really big and important questions that they've never really had the chance to ask yet. So it's a wonderful exploration of their character dynamic as well.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, for fans of Shane, let's give a